Real estate prices up next year. 2026 is the year where real estate prices in Ontario, in British Columbia, and everywhere in Canada will go up. Well, not so fast. I made a lot of videos based on this particular topic, particularly about real estate and how we are heading into more trouble rather than exit of this situation that we are currently in. I will give you 10 big no's that I believe personally that real estate will not recover, especially not as fast as people are predicting. Yes, along the side with a bunch of videos, I had spectators and viewers and commentators saying, yes, next June, next July, next January, the next fall, September, November, whatever it is, it's the next boom, and we will see the recovery of real estate, but not so fast. It doesn't work like that. And yes, I had also questions like, why are prices not falling off the cliff? Well, good question, right? Prices coming down, it's much more stickier than prices going up, right? And there's obviously a reason for it, because once we start betting against each other in a particular situation, the prices to rise can rise just like that. However, coming down, people have sometimes the ability to borrow more. They have lines of credits, they have parents, or they have grandparents or partners that can help them in certain situation to keep their situation afloat for some period of time. And that's why it's called the sticky, right? Because everybody's holding on and it's sticky coming down until one point. And when that point comes, then we have seen it in history in the past that it's the off cliff situation where we see price reductions, 20%, 40%, 60%, depending in the area and obviously depending on the product. But let's get into the big 10 no's why I believe it will never be the same, especially in the short period of time. So first, what I want to touch on is the actual situation that I just mentioned about the sticky prices and about everything else. Don't forget, 2022, we saw the last peak, and ever since then, we're literally a couple of months away from 2026, right? So that's 4 years of this uncomfortable situation. And now people will say, well, we had high interest rates and all that stuff. And I do agree with you that it had a lot to do with that, why it stalled many projects and why many people went into bankruptcy because of that particular situation. But moving forward, we have also seen that the interest rate cuts were also implemented. But the whole point of this, we're already 4 years in a declining real estate market, declining economics, right? In the entire, country, and I would say in the world, it's been happening the same. Wherever you turn and point fingers at, they have their own local and international issues and problems. So it doesn't really, we cannot just solve it overnight. And many claimed on social media feeds and all these gurus and experts, yes, now it's the time, invest now, you will regret it, and all of that stuff, right? Like the same guys were saying that in the peak, right? Buy now or you will never be able to afford a house. That was the message then. Now the message is this is the lowest of the lows and you should buy now because it's the only time you will be able to buy it. So I personally think you have to do your own due diligence, sit, think about it. If you're ready to buy, fine. If you need to buy, there's different situations for different folks out there. However, making a rational decision today in this market sometimes takes a little bit longer, right? People used to make decisions within 5 minutes buying a home 4 years ago. Today it might take you 4 months, and that's okay, right? It might take you a year, and that's okay. right? You're not gonna miss anything out there. Nothing is changing, because when I get into the big 10 no's, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So why do I think that prices will not skyrocket in 2026? So one big no is no up buyers, right? Because the decline in their own property versus what they're buying, no up buyers. It's more difficult, the banks and everything else. So people just sit wherever they are, and there's really no push for that upsell in today's market. Second big no, student housing. It's falling apart. Students are moving, whether they're on visa, whether it's this, whether it's that. But we have seen a lot of these investors at the time buying these properties, detached, semis, townhomes, whatever, condos. They purchased them and they were renting it out by rooms or whatever. So they're going under because there are no more students available, or these students just found a different solution, right? Which I don't know, but it's anyways, like it's crazy. It's dead out there, completely dead. Number three, no immigration and no fuel. So when I say immigration, yes, we still do have some immigration migrate to Canada. However, we need quality, we need money, we need people that are going to boost, that are going to stimulate the economy. So what we're getting in, not necessarily helping overall. It might help certain sectors, but many feel that it's not enough. So I think it's a no. No investors overall. So no folks overseas, right? Whether they're in the East or the West, or however you want to slice it, they're not flying in to Canada open-minded with open arms, spending millions, billions, trillions in Canada anymore, right? It used to be the case, yes, I agree. And people found that Canada was a perfect, I would say, situation or environment, because we had that historical figures to present to these investors. So they felt secure, and money likes securities and guarantee. So we don't have that anymore. So number five, no FOMO, which is no fear of missing out. So we're just getting to the point where it's like people, they're like, I don't care, right? Like I can wait another month and I'm sure that those 1,000 condos are still gonna sit there, right, on the market, or homes, right? So that's another thing. So no FOMO. No flips and no construction, number six, right? So that is a given. There really no construction folks that had obviously companies, or that they had the know-how or whatever, right? Like they're not buying these properties for flips anymore, because majority of the time what they would count on, right, is that increase in value next year, right? Like it was almost guaranteed. They're like, oh, wow, so if I buy this, I implement my know-how, or I implement my people, my construction folks or workers in my company, they do the work, I pay them anyways. And then on top of that, I get that guaranteed increase every single year, right? So that's something that's definitely not happening right now, right? Like, so they have to count in more money and more time on the market, huge risks that nobody likes to take anymore. And borrowing money today is much more expensive than what it used to be. So number seven, no purchase to rent. So yes, even in this other market, right? We talked about student rentals, but this traditional real estate market where people used to buy properties and then rent them out for a decade or two and just milk that equity that was guaranteed every single year, it's off the table. It is rarely happening. And the reason is because math makes no sense, right? So how they used to do it, they would put as little money as humanly possible for the bank approval. 10%, 5%, right? 20% some did, right? and then the rent from the upper and the lower level would cover the cost and the rents. Someone in it with a little bit more risk, where they had to take, that particular negative cash flow out of their pocket for a little while. But usually within a year or two, the property boosts itself to a particular level, and then the rental income by default goes up, and then they break even, right? So the math made sense, right? So that's off the table. Number 8, investors setup scenario. So investors, developers especially, would set up their next project, right? So if they buy a particular house, whether it's a tear down, whether it's renovation, whatever that is, they work on it. And as they're working on that particular project, they like to set up a following project. So they would buy a lot or another house, whether it's in the neighborhood or somewhere else, wherever it made sense. And then, so once they complete this project, they would just move to the setup project, the next up project, right? So there's no more of that happening at all, right? Number 9, no new construction homes. It is pretty clear at this point that there's not many developments happening, period. Detached, semi-townhouse, almost none, right? Like we have not seen numbers like this in decades, right? But what is up is definitely some of these developments have been converted into rentals, and a lot of these rental properties are kind of seeing the light of day, right? But we're definitely gearing towards that rental, I would say, nation, right? So no startups, the cost, the red tape, government licensing and all of that stuff. Then you get into the construction cost. And by the time you break it, the cost of you building that particular property will be significantly more than the neighbor's property. And at that point, you have no sale, right? Because you will be too far apart, and it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's definitely off the table. And number 10 is no new projects, towers, and condos, right? So yes, we have seen that many projects, and even today in the GTA, right? Like all across the Golden Horseshoe and even Niagara Falls Peninsula and all of that stuff. Like we know that there are so many projects. Like we're talking, I can give you a list of 100 lots that are empty, permit ready. All you have to do is start building, right? All over the place, all over Toronto GTA. I'm sure it's like that everywhere in Canada, right? So there's definitely that handbrake on that particular segment, and there's nothing coming, right? So a lot of construction folks are worried nowadays because they're calculating how their workflow will continue, and many have said that they are, they're not seeing future projects, right? Like once the tower is finished, they don't have the next tower to go to. So that's off the table. Like I just brought 10 big no's why I think that 2026 will not be as bright as many are predicting on TikTok or whatever, right? Like nothing against it, right? But everybody is dancing there and trying to make it fun. But I think there's more negative than positive, and that's why I believe that on that negative and positive graph, I think it will be more negative towards that particular outcome. So I hope you got something out of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.